Listen to William Castle, whom the Saturday Evening Post calls the master of movie horror.
Do you believe in ghosts? I do. And you will too. When you come to this theater and see my picture, 13 Ghosts. No more dictation today. When you see 13 ghosts, you'll be given a supernatural viewer like this, which will enable you to penetrate for the first time into the spirit world. It will let you see all 13 of our weird, wonderful, and wildly assorted ghosts.
Now, brace yourself as we take you across the threshold of our haunted mansion, where there's a ghost for everyone in the family. Father, mother, sister, brother. You'll be scared stiff too when you see what they see. 13 ghosts, materializing in ectoplasmic color through the magic of Illusiono. The Ghost Viewer. The ghost of a lion in the basement. The ghost of a murderous cook in the kitchen.
Stop it! Stop it, I say!
The ghost who speaks through the lips of the living.
Death tonight. To one of you. Ah!
The evil ghost in the bedroom, fighting to take possession of this beautiful girl. You'll feel all the thrills and chills of seeing one ghost multiplied by the magic number 13.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Black Sunday tapes. I just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to everyone that tuned into episode 1. We hoped that we would have a few people that tuned in and a few people that would like what we were doing, and you guys went above and beyond, and you have made us feel like this could be something special. So off the top, I want to personally thank you for that, and I know Michael wants to thank you for that too.
Oh, absolutely. I can't really succinctly put how much it means to me that anybody's actually listening and appreciating what's going on here, and that's where I'll leave it, since I go on far too long at far too many times.
And with that said, let's jump straight into episode 2. What classic horror are we tackling this week?
I'm a big fan of 13 Ghosts from 2001, and I'm eagerly awaiting my Scream Factory special edition with all kinds of new special features, and it's an odd kind of comfort film to me, given how ridiculous and over the top it is. But I had never seen the original, so I thought it would be good to go back and revisit that.
Yeah, I've never seen it before. It's one of those that, a little bit like our previous film we looked at, Carnival of Souls, it's one of those you've heard of, you've seen clips of, went in, rented a HD version, had a bunch of fun with it.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah, so before we kick off, do you want to give a little intro?
Absolutely. And I think the best way for me to do that is actually to read a review from the New York Times from the era in which it was released.
I love that. Let's do it.
So this is an article dated 6th August of 1960. To appreciate fully or see 13 Ghosts, you're supposed to peer through a small cardboard contraption with orange and blue rectangles. The top one, orange, brings into misty focus some yowling white silhouettes besetting the characters in the story on the Forum Theater screen. The blue gets rid of the ghosts, leaving the characters in the clear. Wording on the screen tells you when you're to peer and when not to peer. Actually, this mild little spook melodrama, directed and produced by William Castle, would be a lot better off without this gimmick, courtesy of the house. It's too bad Mr. Castle, in serving up his ghosts, didn't simply have some cartoonists draw them up in full view. We have in mind specifically that dandy ghost entry during World War II called The Uninvited, when those vaporish coils were molesting Ray Milland and Gail Russell. Yesterday's picture? It's simple, old-fashioned haunted house yarn, written by Rob White, about a nice little family inheriting a Gothic mansion. The folk are personable indeed, as played by Donald Woods, Rosemary DeCamp, Joe Morrow, and young Charles Herbert. Margaret Hamilton, looking like her famous old witch in The Wizard of Oz, is on hand gravely and sensibly as a formidable housekeeper. And Martin Milner and John Vanderleen are also on hand. Mr. Castle previously had a rickety skeleton sliding toward the audience to jazz up the house on Haunted Hill. A loud warning bell prepared patrons for the face to end them all on the Tingler. If only he would forget all the monkey business and settle for a trim, uncluttered thriller. But 13 Ghosts at least looked fairly well scrubbed.
This is a film that, oddly enough, I had never seen. You know, very, very aware of, seen lots of clips from it, lots of chatter about it, but I'd never seen it. And we're going to get into some reactions soon. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Fun
This
is
this
all
is
over
the first
if
time
you're willing to let it happen. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. This is the first time you had seen the film in full as well, right?
Oh, very much so. Yes. I had the same thing where it was like I knew. I don't know if I knew it was a remake when I first became aware of it, but I want to say I knew it was a remake by the time that I actually watched it.
So what do you think of this version, the original William Castle version?
So I don't know how much anybody listening knows about William Castle, the person, or the way that the man made and marketed films, but the short version is he made them as cheaply as possible, and he always had a gimmick, like a physical gimmick, whether it was the gimmick we're going to get into about this film, or with the Tingler, he had little buzzers installed in seats. When you saw House on Haunted Hill at one point during the movie, an actual skeleton came rushing over the audience. So he had gimmicks to drive butts to seats. Yeah.
So that's how I know William Castle. When I was coming up through college and I was getting into film and I was getting into classic horror, part of the ideas that they try and get across to you is film is an art form, but it is also a business. So you've got to try and look at ways you sell it. And that's basically what you're on about, right? These gimmicks were ways that William Castle was trying to put bums in seats. And for me, I actually find that a little bit more interesting in his films. That he was this.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, he was kind of this show. You know, he was almost like this circus showman that was, come and watch my freak show. If you come and watch the Tingler, whenever the monster comes on the screen, you're gonna get buzzed. And oddly enough, while we're not going down the Tingler route, one of the most interesting facts about that is, like you said, these films were made so cheaply and had such a cheap marketing budget. That was advertised to everyone that was walking in the cinema. Not everyone got that experience because they didn't have enough money to put buzzers on every seat.
It was like every second or third, yeah?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then the same with the skeletons for House on Haunted Hill. Yeah, it was, you know, it was marketed as you would have 3 or 4 skeletons, you know, fly over you during the scariest parts of the film.
Right.
For the most part, it was one. There was cinemas that had none or had one, but it didn't work. Yeah. What was the gimmick for this film?
Well, with this one, it was called Illusiono. The easiest way to explain it is it was 3D glasses, but instead of it being one eye each color, it was one lens of each color. So you could either see the ghosts if you believed in them, or if you didn't believe in ghosts, you looked through the other color and you didn't see the ghosts.
It was marketed, if you're brave enough, you know, you watch it with a filter where you can see the ghosts, and if the terror gets too much, you watch it with the other filter and you don't have to see the ghosts. The amazing part about that is this is not a scary film in the slightest. And for me, don't get me wrong, right? You go into 13 Ghosts, you're going to have a great time. In today's world, it plays a little bit more comedy than horror, even though
a bit more.
Yeah, it desperately wanted to be serious horror.
Yeah.
But
if nothing else, is told by how it starts trying to be serious and how it ends in a pretty shocking, I would think, for 1960 kind of a way.
Yeah. The idea of Illusiono and everything else William Castle was doing, that is so fascinating to me. He could even convince anyone to go along with this, but he convinced everyone.
Quick sidebar. There's actually a post-credit scene, which is one of the links that I sent you for my research, where he came on and goes, you know what? If you still don't believe in ghosts, go ahead, go home. And next time you have the lights off and it's dark outside, go ahead and look through the filter where you can see ghosts, if you dare.
Oh, that's amazing. He is, like, this is the thing with William Castle. He was such a great showman.
Right?
He was such a great showman.
He's so entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. This is what The Greatest Showman should have been about. It should have been about William Castle.
There it
It
is.
really should have. No, we're distracting from the film a little bit, but guys, I just wanted to throw out there this great history of William Castle. Maybe we're doing an episode just on William Castle in the future.
I'm
It's
so
definitely,
because
it's
I've-
definitely a topic we're interested in,
Yeah.
and go on for hours about what this man come up with and his plans and his schemes just to get bums in seats. It's really, really amazing. It really is. So, in terms of the film, what are your impressions?
So the fun I had with it was realizing it was of its era, of the cheap William Castle that we're talking about, and realizing that wow, if Carnival of Souls had wooden acting, this has acting from the School of Particle Board, but it's still got a charm. I mean, the son, he went on to be in My Three Sons, several years later.
Yeah.
It's full of so much, look how hard we're trying, but at the same time, I can't imagine that it didn't look even kind of cheap at the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, that's why it plays as quite an odd film, because the ghosts are purely a gimmick,
Oh yeah.
right? They're a backdrop to the story, but in terms of their presentation in the film, they're purely a gimmick, and it doesn't hold up in any way, and it does kind of play to comedy. I don't think that ruins the film. I just think it changes your experience with it watching it today. But in
I totally
in
get
terms
that.
of the
Like,
acting and the
go ahead.
direction and the presentation, they are going for quite a serious film. Like, them actors are taking this very seriously. The direction is very serious, and it's a very odd mix. A director that I'm not sure he really knows what he's doing with the film. Do you get what I
would
mean?
agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah.
The acting is wooden, but in some areas, he's getting some good stuff. But then the presentation with the ghosts and some of the scares, if you can call them that.
If you can call them that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just really interesting. It's just such an odd mix.
I totally agree that it's a little awkward and cheesy, because one of my notes was, if I was a thinner man, I would totally try and cosplay that chef guy with that fabulous
Oh
mustache
my
of his.
God. Right. Let's talk about that just for a second. The design of the ghosts or the ghouls or whatever you want to call it, they are awful. I don't mean that in the way of we're watching a film in 2020 that was made in 1960,
Right.
and then the makeup techniques do not stand up now. The effects do not stand up now.
I kind of dug, I think, the final, kind of actual gross ghost I thought was kind of cool. Like Ghost 12, I thought was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, that kind of works but overall,
I mean, the first 4 or 5 of them were straight up Party City decorations.
it's crazy. Like right, and the one I wanted to touch on, you brought it up, the chef.
Yeah.
The chef is essentially a cardboard cutout of the character from the Muppets.
Oh yeah. But just
It's
thin without human hands.
Yes, yes. It's so cartoonish. The presentation of it is. So I fail to believe that in 1960, someone puts on that makeup for that chef.
Makeup.
However they build, however they build that effect, right?
I believe it's cardboard
Ginormous.
leotard.
That ginormous moustache. And you're telling me there's no one on set that goes, I don't think this is going to come across scary. This might be a bit comical. And again, that's actually why I say that you can watch this film now, because while there is that mixed bag, and while I'm not really sure William Castle knew what film he wanted to make, there's the other side of it where I'm like, maybe he did. Maybe he knew that he didn't have the money to make this serious.
Based on that
ghost film.
smile on his face, underneath everything he says
Right.
in the trailers and the pre and post, there's no way he didn't understand that he was at least making a semi-comedy.
So let's circle back to the actors. So
Okay.
What actors stood out for you? What actors did you really like? Obviously, on our last episode, we were very complimentary about the acting and how that stood out and how that elevated it. I'm not sure this is the same.
Okay.
However, I didn't really hate anyone in this film.
Exactly.
Yeah, I quite like. For me, I did quite like the dad. I thought the dad was quite interesting. I actually feel there is a very interesting film within his character.
I agree that the character has a lot of really good and interesting qualities,
Yeah.
and I also agree that a lot of things that drew you in. I actually really did dig the father character because as quirky and odd as his physical and facial reaction choices were at times, you could tell he loved his family. And for instance, when he said all clear on the offspring front, that's
Yeah.
absolutely something my father would say.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so like I was on board as much as I was like, oh man, really? Like, did you come from the community theater? Like,
Everyone in this kind of played as if they, apart from one actress, which is probably quite obvious, but yeah, everyone kind of did play like they were community theatre
yeah,
actors. There's a lot of them great, over the top, dramatic
yeah,
at the end of shots and at the end of sentences and stuff like that. And I love that stuff. I really do. There's just something about these films that reminds me of watching old American classics on, a Sunday morning.
I get that.
Just that acting always stands out. It's a type of, or a method of acting maybe that has been lost, isn't practiced anymore.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I'll tell you what stood out to me the most.
It really works for me anyway. It really works in terms of like old films.
Well, and I feel that like we've been very like we like it, but it's maybe bad. And what I actually genuinely liked about it was kind of how theatrically they handled the lighting. And by theatrically, I mean very specifically theatrically a couple of times, both interestingly and to its detriment. Specifically, at one point, the mother and father are having a conversation in a room, and the mother is in a bed, and the beds are very I Love Lucy,
Yeah.
in as much as they are single-person
Yeah.
beds removed from
Yeah.
each other.
The
And
mother is fantastic.
isn't she? Isn't
Like
she?
maybe I don't know if it's for the right or wrong reasons, but the
I think it's for a
mother
little bit
is
of both reasons.
Oh my god,
I
she
mean,
is
when she's
fantastic.
sitting in that chair and the
Right,
movers
that
smack
scene.
her on the ass to
No,
get
no,
her
no.
out of the
Hold
chair
on,
to take
hold
it.
on.
I mean,
That
come
scene
on.
you was talking about. That scene you were talking about with them in the bed.
But the lighting in that, the way that it's
Yeah,
coming
but
in
like
so harsh.
where he leaves,
Mhm.
and then when he comes back, and there's just that shot of where he comes back in the bedroom, and she has still got the like most serious look on her face
Right.
you've ever like. It hasn't changed the whole time he's left the bedroom. It hasn't changed, but it is perfect. It is so perfect. And it's little moments like that just, I don't know what it is, they just give me butterflies. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm just like, yes, I just love those reactions. I really do. You just don't see that in 1960, pre-1960 style of acting. That I can't think of anything really beyond the 60s that kind of all changed from there, didn't it? And
Yeah. So just as she's lying there in that bed, the way that the lighting is so very specifically on her, and they don't try to like soften it on the wall in any way, shape, or form. It's just hitting the wall and going just down onto her face, cutting in a fashion that's like, this is where you need to look. Later on, there's a floating candle. Yeah, a spotlight is absolutely how a floating candle would throw light. So,
that one stood out to me with a floating candle.
oh,
That
it could.
was
I think that would stand out to almost anybody, even
Yeah,
people
that
not
was
really into
interesting.
film like we are. Like,
Yeah, that was interesting. But I'll be honest, overall, I like the lighting.
it was actually one of the highlights of the film to me. 100%. I'm not like
Yes,
not
yeah, definitely. It really stood out for me. There's a lot of great shots around the stairs,
yeah.
where they cast the shadows through the banisters. There's a lot of nice shots just of the family towards the seance at the end of the film. I thought that was shot quite nicely.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, the worst shot scenes are the scenes with the ghosts.
Kinda. Yeah. They're just I mean, okay, so like the first one where you see like 3 or 4 ghosts at the same time, and if you know what Party City is, great. If you don't know what Party City is, it's where you go to buy cheap party supplies. It's a whole chain of stores, and they have things that look almost exactly like the first set of ghosts that you see. And I get that the way that they needed to present the film dictated the way that they had to shoot certain scenes, but still,
Of
it was
course.
like you could have, uh, based on what you did later on in the film, you could have made that a more dynamic presentation.
Yeah, I actually think I think it is quite important when we're talking about the lighting and the ghosts and the scenes that are meant to be your scary scenes, because the
Yeah.
lighting really lets it down. The scenes actually work quite well when you're building up to them. But then as soon as and I know this is the case in a lot of stuff, but as soon as they reveal the ghosts, it really lets it down. It's actually far more effective in the build up, and then it feels like they didn't know what they were doing when they got to the ghosts. And I feel like that's also why they come across very cheap in their execution. I feel like if they had presented and photographed the ghosts and those scenes in particular a lot better, it would make for a much better experience. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Especially since enjoyed and I was like, oh, that's kind of a little weird and creepy. The visual of the possession towards the end.
Yes. Yeah.
That visual worked really, really well. The look of the costumery on the ghost and the way it overlaid on him and then faded away complete. I don't know. I just like the way it looked.
I thought
It
that
worked.
worked quite well. Well, the overlay
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
images, I didn't mind it. Actually, it really reminded me, and I couldn't find, maybe you have, I couldn't really find exactly how they achieved overlaying the ghosts on the film, but it really
I'm gonna
reminded
be honest
me.
with you. It was a lot more difficult for me to find behind the scenes info on this than it
Yeah,
was
same.
on
On Carnival Souls.
Carnival Souls.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same. It really reminded me of, and you know what a huge fan I am of, the Haunted Mansion
yeah,
at Disneyland
yeah.
and Disney World. And
That's my
for
favorite ride.
anyone that's been on the Haunted Mansion, there's a ballroom scene
Yes, there
where,
is.
yeah, where you can see the ghosts floating through objects, right? And
Yeah,
the way that is achieved is a technique called Pepper's Ghost, where it's essentially just an illusion with mirrors. This really reminded me of that. This really looked like the Pepper's Ghost illusion. I'm not sure if it was. I
agreed.
couldn't really find anything on that. But I found that quite interesting. And like you said, I think at the end, that works really well. Also, towards the end, there's a scene with a bed that is a death trap. Let's put it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
And they overlay, because they're overlaying the ghost on the film.
right.
When the bed descends, the ghost appears as if it goes straight through the bed.
Right.
And I
Yeah, there it
really
is.
like that. I thought that worked really well, especially the way they actually matched the timing of the acting with the ghost and the effect, as in when the ghost looks like it's coming through the bed, there's a very subtle head turn towards the little boy. And I
I
thought
got you.
that was actually really creepy. I thought that worked really well.
Yeah,
So there's like,
especially since earlier on in the film they sort of established that he's communicating with them because he knows their names and habits.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Again, I thought that was quite interesting. Again, a bit like the dad, I feel like there's a really interesting film slash story that in just following the little boy, the son.
I agree with that, especially the way that the boyfriend wannabe character, whose name I'm utterly forgetting, is able to manipulate him.
Yeah.
Like it read like I
Benjamin.
100% would watch the kids movie. Yes,
Yeah. Benjamin is the guy who, he's like a lawyer. He's the guy that's responsible for handing the house over to the family
there it is. Yeah,
and
him.
sorting out their inheritance. So that's the guy we're on about. And then the child is called Buck.
Is there a more quintessential American child name than Buck? I mean maybe Sport, but only Sport.
Yeah,
And
true.
he is just as precocious and child actor from that era wouldn't as could possibly be. But that being said, he's also quintessential child actor from that era because he would later go on to be in My Three Sons, which is one of the great American television series from the time.
For me, the kid actually really stood out. You're right about the acting, but I didn't mind it. Like you said, it's
No. It's
quintessential
just
of that
what it
time.
was at the time.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. And actually, I feel like there's a lot you could have done. And really interestingly,
Yeah.
so Charles Herbert, I believe his name is, the actor that played Buck, going into the film, he was quite well known and was quite a sought after child actor. So to get
Really?
him
I
in
didn't
this
know
film, so to get him in this film, William Castle actually gave him top billing.
that. No way.
That was the only way to get him in the film. What is then really interesting is in 1960, the year this come out, he done 2 or 3 films, and they would be the last feature films he would ever do, because he essentially become, I'm not sure the exact reason, but from what I could gather, he essentially become that little bit too old after these films to be playing these roles anymore.
Oh, he lost that.
So transitioned into TV and never returned to film.
Because I mean, back then it was you were TV or you were film. You were not both.
You were not both, exactly. But he was quite prominent in, not like extreme prominent. It's not like he'd done like a million things, but he, from what I read, he was quite sought after, and William Castle really wanted him. And the only way they got him in the film was to give him top billing.
And to be honest with you, like it was worth it because, again, maybe the performance was a little wooden by today's standards, but I think the look of him was perfect for what they were going for, because you bought the gullibility, you bought everything that he was selling you, regardless of the level of the performance. I completely agree.
I mean, for me, he's probably, alongside the dad, I think they're the 2 most important people. And I know the film is presented that way.
Undeniably.
Yeah, I know the film's presented that way, but that can obviously get lost if the actors don't deliver. And I feel like they do both deliver, and I feel like the way the acting comes across as wooden is more a sign of the times than a sign of ability. If
100%.
that makes sense. So yeah, I really thought the kid was quite a standout. Actually, I really enjoyed him, and I thought that there could have been a much wider story told about his relationship with the ghosts, because it kind of, like, in the film, that kind of starts, right? Like, he's communicating with them.
Okay, so that's a movie that you and I have to write now, right?
Right, there you go. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm trying. This is the slow sell into our 13 Ghosts sequel.
You don't have to sell me. You just have to say that we're going to do it.
Right, there you go. We're going to do it. So we've spoke about a few of the actors. Shall we touch on the most famous, the standout, the witch?
So the way we're introduced to this, in quotes, witch is, as the family gets to the house, Benjamin walks up and sees Buck roller skating on the front porch, and it boils down to him going, "Okay, no, Buck going, just knock on the door, a witch will answer." And who opens the door but his beautiful sister? And then when they get inside, they look up the stairs and they see who the witch is, and the witch is the literal Wicked Witch of the West.
The witch. It's undeniable as well, right? Like, as soon as you see her,
like, I had the thought, I was like, is that the Wicked Witch of the West? I don't know, man. Like, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, and I love the line from Buck as well, where he's like, she even has a broom.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, non-spoiler, spoiler, just later on, there's a 4th wall break with her holding a broom, looking dead into the camera, just in case you didn't get it.
Oh man, I was fully expecting her to do the laugh.
Right?
I was a little bit disappointed we didn't get, like, the bigger laugh that is coming. It didn't, and then we get the moment you speak about, the 4th wall break, and I was like, this is it, she's gonna deliver it, and then the film ends.
Maybe that would have been too on the nose, or maybe, to be honest with you, I'm almost certain Castle asked for it, but she was like, not gonna happen.
That wouldn't surprise me. If he could have put that in a trailer, he would have.
Exactly my point. Yes.
Of course he would have.
If he had gotten that on film, it would have been in the trailer.
Yeah, it's no mistake that he needed a creepy witch-esque character, and he goes and casts Margaret Hamilton.
There it is.
who is the most famous witch of all time.
Kind of undeniably, yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, you know, you've got her, and then you've got Melissa Joan Hart as Sabrina. But I'm, you
Yeah.
know, I'm gonna say Margaret Hamilton probably takes it. All right, I think we've gone on about 13 Ghosts long enough. Definitely an enjoyable one, guys. Go out, check it out. You're definitely gonna have some fun with this one. So as always, in wrapping this up, we've actually touched on a lot of trivia, but you know, I like to leave you with a little something, and I find this quite interesting. So the exterior of the big haunted mansion in the film is actually the famous Winchester Mystery House, which is located in San Jose, California.
There it is.
So with that said, we'll wrap this one up. Stay safe till next time, Horror Hounds.
Take care, folks.
Bye.